Good afternoon, online family. My name is Jim Wright. I'm speaking to you from the top of Prayer Mountain. I want to share a story with you very quickly about the day that Jesus talked to Peter. Peter had forsaken Jesus after the resurrection. He was discouraged, and so him and the other disciples had gone back to what was comfortable, and that was fishing. So they had fished all night and caught no fishes, and Jesus was on the shore that morning waiting for them. The other apostles were looking, they recognized Jesus, and Peter recognized Jesus. He jumped in the water and swam to beat everybody there. And when he got to Jesus, he wanted just some quiet time and alone time with Jesus. And Jesus already had a fire there and already had fishes for the other men. And Jesus said something amazing to Peter. He said, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter says, "Oh yes, I love you." He said, "Then feed my sheep, feed my lambs." And he asked him again, he said, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter said, "Oh, you know I love you, Lord. You know I love you." He said, "Well, then feed my sheep." Then Jesus, for the third time, said, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter broke down and he began to cry, and he said, "Oh, Lord, only you know." Now in English, in 1611 English, it uses the word love. But Jesus used a different type of love there. The first time Jesus says, "Peter, do you agape me? Do you love me with all of your heart?" "Yes, Lord, I do, I do, I do." Then Jesus turned around and said, "Peter, do you agape me?" Peter, in frustration, "Yes, Lord, you know I do." Then Jesus looked right in Peter's eyes and he said, "Peter," and for the first time, Jesus changes the word on Peter. This time he doesn't use the word agape, he uses the word phileo, which means brotherly love. He said, "Peter, do you phileo me?" And then that's when Peter broke down and said, "Oh God, you see my heart." Peter knew exactly what Jesus was saying. See, Jesus wasn't talking about love and to die for. He said, "Peter, am I even your friend? Do you even count me as a friend?" And that's when Peter broke down, said, "Oh God, you know my heart." And then Jesus began to get really real with Peter. And for the first time, Peter had begun to be very real with Jesus. And at that moment, at that time, Jesus began to tell Peter's future, and he began to tell him what was going to happen. He said, "You know, when you're young, you'll go wherever you want to go. But when you're old, they'll bind your hands and you'll be led." Jesus got very real with Peter. And what Jesus was trying to tell him and what Jesus is trying to tell us every day is, I want to be real with you. It's not about agape love so much as it's about phileo love. Will you be my friend? I think back about Abraham. One of the greatest things about Abraham is what God says. He was a friend of God. Today I want to encourage you to be a friend of God. Don't worry about the big fancy agape love. Just love Jesus today the best you can, and He'll take care of the rest. Thank you. Have a good evening.